All right, welcome everyone. It looks like we are live. Happy Earth Week and welcome to our first program of all about celebrating Earth Day or celebrating it, however you want to say it. I am Diane Hardy. I'm the Education Volunteer Coordinator at the Marine Mammal Center, and I am joined by our two experts, Aliah and Lauren, who we will introduce in just a minute. But before we do so, feel free to put your name in the chat, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if you have any questions for our panelists throughout the program, we'll try to get them answered while we are live. I will pass it over to Aliah. Oh, and this one is all about rescuing marine mammals and what happens after we get a call. So I'll pass it over to Aliah. If you could introduce yourself to the audience and tell us about your role.
Thank you, Diane. My name's Aliah. I am the operations manager for our hospital in San Luis Obispo, coming to you live in my office here from San Luis Obispo. And we are kind of working and rescuing marine mammals all along San Luis Obispo County. But I'm actually going to talk to you guys a little bit more about just our California range in general. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Aliah. And I'll pass over to Lauren, who's working in Hawaii, if you could share a little bit more about your role over there.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren, and I am actually coming to you from our facility at Ke Kaiola, which is on the Big Island of Hawaii. My role is actually specifically to monitor our Hawaiian monk seal populations along the coast of the Big Island.
Awesome. So we've got two experts from across our range. We're going to be talking about what happens after a call comes in. But before we do so, I do want to encourage everyone watching, if you don't already, to input our rescue hotline number into your phones. So if you're tuning in from California, make sure to input the number 415-289-SEAL, and the SEAL stands for 7325, to report a marine mammal in distress. And if you're in Hawaii, we've got the numbers here for the Big Island. And then if you're in another island, use the statewide number that you can see on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And I know in Hawaii, actually, Lauren and her team does a lot of sighting work as well. So it's not just if you see a Hawaiian monk seal in distress. Lauren, if you want to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely. We actually monitor the entire Hawaiian monk seal population on the island of Hawaii. So anytime you see a seal, whether it's just sleeping or in the water, please do report it to us, as we do track kind of their movements around the island. So again, be sure to call in both on Hawaii Island, as well as if you're on any of the neighboring islands, you can call that statewide number anytime you see a Hawaiian monk seal.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. And I'm looking at the chat. Hello, everyone. We've got some people from Boston. We've got Ben watching from Hawaii. Azul from Los Osos. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I guess I'll throw out a question for Aliah. So not many of you might know this, but we have our headquarters at the Marine Mammal Center in California. The headquarters are in Sausalito, but most of our marine mammal patients are actually rescued way down south, closer to San Luis Obispo. So Aliah, can you walk us through a little bit what your team does after they get a rescue call?
Yes, thanks, Diane. So once we receive a call from our hotline, our 415-289-SEAL phone number, our trained responders, volunteers, will actually go out and assess an animal. And through that assessment, they'll actually go ahead and determine whether or not that animal needs a rescue, or if it's an animal that's just resting and we can actually leave it on the beach. And once that animal is completed with an assessment, then our volunteers will actually go ahead and proceed with the response, whether that be rescue or leaving it on the beach. And once that animal is rescued, we'll actually bring it back to our facility here in Morro Bay. and provide it with stabilization kind of triage care. And that can include tube feedings, subcutaneous fluids for any kind of hydration that they might require. And they'll stay at our facility here before they actually go up to Sausalito for their long-term treatment.
Awesome. That's a lot of hard work. And again, make sure to put in that number on your phone, 415-289-SEAL, so that if you're walking along the trails in California, you see a marine mammal in distress, you can call experts such as Aliah and her team. And Lauren, I'm sure things are a little bit different across the Pacific over in Hawaii. Would you like to share a little bit about what happens when your team gets a call?
Yeah, definitely, Diane. So basically, anytime you call in a Hawaiian monk seal to the hotline, we will dispatch our volunteers to go out and monitor that seal. So that might just be getting an identification, making sure there's no health concerns through visually checking them out. And then we might leave them on their own if it's in a pretty secluded area. And then if it has hauled out in an area that has a lot of high traffic, a lot of people in that area, we'll actually stay and do community outreach. So we'll educate everybody about the Hawaiian monk seal because it is a pretty unique species. It's endangered. There's only about 1,400 left in the entire world, and all of those reside in the Hawaiian Islands. So they are endemic to Hawaii. They're you can only find them here. So we monitor when they're resting. They also go through something called an annual catastrophic molt, where they basically shed their fur, and we will monitor during that period of time, as well as when we have mom and pup pairs on the beach.
Awesome. And our elephant seals over in California also go through a catastrophic molt. So it's interesting seeing similarities between these species, even though they're separated by a few hundred miles of ocean.
Yeah.
And we also recently released 2 patients, right? Mele and RK58. Would you like to share a little bit about them, Lauren?
Yeah, so RM90 or Mele actually came to us from Oahu as a patient that was brought in for malnutrition. So she essentially wasn't gaining any weight for several months and was fairly thin. So we brought her in to our facility on Kona, and she was treated for parasites. And actually she doubled in weight while she was here. So she went from about 28 kilos to 64, I think, when she left us. It might be a little bit more than that. And then RK58 was actually a male juvenile Hawaiian monk seal that was brought to us from Kauai. And it's suspected that he sustained injuries from a dog attack. So he had multiple puncture wounds all over his body and abscesses, and his body condition wasn't that great. So we treated those wounds, and both of them were actually released just a couple of weeks ago onto the islands that they came from. So Mele went back to Oahu, and RK58 was released on Kauai. And it's just amazing that we were able to do this work during a pandemic, and we worked with U.S. Coast Guard as well as our partners at NOAA in order to facilitate this transfer of these seals and get them the care that they needed.
That's incredible. And for those of you who might have seen some releases in California, the releases in Hawaii are quite different, involve some planes and boats sometimes. And as you mentioned, Lauren, a lot of coordination with partners like NOAA and the U.S. Coast Guard to do that. So quite the team effort, which is pretty great to see. And then Aliah, to take us back to California, are there some recent patient stories that pop to mind or rescues that were memorable to you that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, currently we're actually experiencing our busy season, so we're in the thick of it, seeing a lot of northern elephant seal pups as well as harbor seal pups. And what's really important about these guys is that when you come across one of these animals on the beach, you keep your distance from them. For example, we recently rescued a harbor seal pup named Meringue, and Meringue was actually picked up by a member of the public. Unfortunately, that's not the situation we were hoping for our pup, as it is common for harbor seal moms to leave their pup on the beach while they're out foraging and eating fish, and then they'll come back and return to their pups. But Meringue did end up coming back to us here in San Luis Obispo, and she was underweight. And so it was really important that we provided that care for her. And she's actually up in Sausalito getting some really needed nutrients. And we're actually hoping to go ahead and release Meringue pretty soon in the next few weeks.
That's awesome. And what a cute little animal. The harbor seals are really, really adorable. Sometimes to unfortunately put them in more danger, as Aliah said, really important to leave seals be, especially with harbor seals. Meringue, unfortunately, is not the only harbor seal we see that gets separated early, often caused by people coming up a little bit too close to these pups on the beach and mom getting scared away. So make sure to protect the seals, keep your distance. Staying 50 feet away is usually a good thing to go by. If you're using the zoom on your camera, you're probably a good distance. If you're not, you're probably a little bit too close. If the seal is looking at you, that's also usually a sign that you might be disturbing it. And of course, if you know if you're on a beach where there's seals or sea lions, make sure to leash your pets because they can get curious and can get in altercations with our marine mammals. And of course, always call our hotline. Even if you're not sure, you can give us a call. And as Aliah and Lauren described, our teams will always check out the animals and make sure whether or not they need response or rescue or relocation. Awesome. So these are the hotline numbers again on the screen. And Aliah, are there other things that people can do to protect our marine mammals in California?
Absolutely. So you kind of named a few of them, Diane, making sure if you come across a marine mammal to keep a distance, at least 50 feet, and make sure you're using that zoom. If you're not, then you're too close. And you can always make sure to call our hotline. That way our responders can go out and check on that animal and make sure it's doing okay. And of course, donate to the Marine Mammal Center. And right now, we actually have one of our board members, Greg Friedman, who is matching any donations, doubling your dollar with a matched gift. So if you're able to, please text OCEAN to 41444 to donate to the Marine Mammal Center.
Yes, especially important now because as Aliah mentioned, we are right in the middle of the busy season, making lots of fish milkshake and feeding our seals lots of fish. So give $1 for a pound of fish for our hungry harbor seal and elephant seal pups. Aliah, do you want to share a little bit about our elephant seal patients and what those rescues look like?
Oh, absolutely. We've seen quite a few elephant seals in the last few weeks and even few months. And right now is about the time that they're kind of going on their own, learning how to feed by themselves and how to swim, how to find that fish. And some of them maybe not doing so well. And so they strand onto our local beaches here in California. And at that point, then our responders will assess the animal and determine if their body condition isn't doing really well and they're really emaciated. So they'll come to our facility and we'll treat them, just getting them the fish that they need. And when they actually come into us, a lot of them don't know how to feed on fish properly. So they actually have to go through what we call fish school, which is really fun. We teach them how to forage successfully and feed on fish. And that way, when they are released, they will do so successfully on their own.
Yes, it's always fun seeing them, watching them learn and taking them through that process of fish school, which I know is something that Hawaiian monk seals go through as well, along with enrichment. Lauren, do you want to chime in and talk a little bit about Hawaiian monk seals and the care they go through at the hospital?
Yeah, so any Hawaiian monk seal that is brought into our care, sometimes just like Aliah mentioned, they're usually pretty young and they haven't quite learned how to forage on their own. So we'll actually have to tube feed them and give them, fish shakes basically. And then we'll have to assist feed them and teach them to eat fish. And we'll use different enrichment items such as the float that you see here. as well as we have things like fish boxes where they have to actually lift lids in order to forage for their fish. So it's kind of essentially, the fish school where we teach them how to survive in the wild on their own before releasing them.
Awesome, and thank you for sharing. And I know as well, in a lot of your responses in Hawaii, especially, are in remote areas. How far do you and your volunteers sometimes have to hike to get to these seals?
Yeah, that's a really great question. We have some very dedicated volunteers here on island. As an example, during the pandemic, when the beaches were closed, in order to monitor a mom and pup pair, we had volunteers that were hiking 3 miles round trip in order to monitor that mom and pup pair. But on a daily basis, the Big Island is about 266 miles of coastline, and with over 100 beaches. And actually, Hawaiian monk seals don't always haul out on beaches. They haul out on rocky coastlines as well. And we will respond to basically any location that a Hawaiian monk seal is hauled out on, just to monitor for any injury. We also monitor them, as mentioned before, really closely during molting. So currently, we actually have a seal along our coastline that is going through his annual catastrophic molt. He's about 75% of the way through. And as you can see in like this photo here, it's not very pretty. They basically look pretty ragged during that time. And they can be a lot more irritable. So we want to really make sure that we're giving them their distance during this time. They'll be hauled out anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks while they're doing this. And the best way to make sure that you are giving them the distance that they need is something that we call the rule of thumb, where essentially you hold your thumb up and to the side, and if your thumb covers the Hawaiian monk seal, you're estimated to be at approximately 50 feet, give or take. Also, a really good indicator is that seal reacting to you. So if you're too close, if they're lifting their head, if they're looking right at you, then you're disturbing them while you're sleeping. So you want to take some extra steps back until they no longer are kind of looking at you anymore.
That's a great rule of thumb that you shared there. And I think that can also be used for animals over in California to tell if you're a safe distance away. And then for the audience, what are some signs people can look for to know whether a seal or sea lion needs our help or needs to be called in?
We always recommend folks to always call the hotline if they are even kind of worried of any marine mammal that might be on land. But some things might be, visible bones like ribs. An animal might be really malnourished. Maybe crusty eyes from dehydration. They could be suffering from an injury. So if you see any open wounds on the animal, definitely call our hotlines. Or if you see an animal that is being disturbed, maybe people are too close, definitely give us a call and we can send one of our volunteers out to take care of that animal.
Yeah, and on the Big Island, really anytime you see a Hawaiian monk seal, please call it in. But especially if you see any open wounds or entanglement, we do have instances of Hawaiian monk seals being hooked or entangled in fishing line, and those are always times when the quicker we get a call, the quicker we can respond and hopefully help that animal.
Awesome. And how can people, if people aren't out on the beaches and they can't, see these animals or call our hotline, what are some other ways people can help from home?
Yeah, that's a great question. Anything that you can do in order to reduce, the amount of plastic or marine debris that is going into our waterways is very beneficial. Again, you can donate to individuals and to programs such as ours with that texting ocean. And right now, during Earth Day week, we are actually doubling that donation. So please do, if you are able to. That helps us a lot to feed and to take care of our patients. And really just sharing your knowledge. So really, anything that you learn about marine mammals, share that with your family, with your community. Share with them, not to approach too closely if they see them out on the beach, or if they're walking the dog to please keep it on a leash if there's marine mammals. Any information that you can share to help these marine mammals is beneficial to all of them.
Yeah, those are some great answers. And supporting sustainable seafood as well is important. As Lauren mentioned, some of these seals in Hawaii and in California get entangled in fishing gear. And of course, overfishing can be a threat to them as well. And just want to give an opportunity to Aliah and Lauren if you have any stories or favorite patients that you want to share. I always think those are fun, and I like asking people that work with the animals those questions.
There's so many, but recently, in addition to some of the elephant seal and harbor seal pups that we've seen, you've also seen Guadalupe Fur Seals. And Guadalupe Fur Seals are actually an endangered species, so it's really important if you were on a beach and you saw an animal to give us a call, so that way we can respond, particularly with endangered species similar to our Hawaiian monk seal. And we've had some really interesting Guadalupe Fur Seals. They're really, unfortunately, they come in really malnourished, very thin. So it's really important that we provide them with that support that they need in becoming healthier, so that they can go back out and be released into the ocean.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I do love the Guadalupe Fur Seals, and they're quite feisty as well. They come in very small sometimes, but they can be a little scary to work with.
Yeah, and I'm from the Big Island. I don't have a favorite, and we actually have a very small population on the island of Hawaii. So there's only about 8 to 10 Hawaiian monk seals that are kind of residing on our island at any given time. And so anyone that you see is really special. But we do have one adult female, RA20, who's actually gave birth to this seal that you're seeing. This is Manuiva on the screen, and that's her 3-year-old daughter. And RA20 actually is the only Big Island Hawaiian monk seal patient that we've had on site. So she's really special to us, and she's out back along our coastlines doing really well, nice and healthy. So she's a success story for Cape Kaiola for sure.
Wow, it's so great seeing too some of these released patients go on and having pups of their own and helping replenish the Hawaiian monk seal population, which is only at 1,400 individuals, as you said, but slowly but surely recovering. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this event. I do want to plug in some of the upcoming ones. So we have a program about saving an entangled seal tomorrow, April 22nd at the same time around 3:30. And then on Friday, we're going to be talking all about whales in the Bay and kind of the history of the Bay Area and restoration of that environment. And then also, if you are a high school student or know a high school student, we have an event called Stewardship Saturday coming up on Saturday at 10 a.m. Great event for you to get involved in Earth Day. So thank you everyone for coming today. I want to thank Aliah and Lauren for providing their expertise and answering our questions. And goodbye everyone. Happy Earth Week. Hope you celebrate Earth Day tomorrow.